Thank you so much for keeping time. We'll definitely come back to the best practices and other questions in next round. But now I want to move to Ramon Roca from GoofyNet, which like people who are familiar with the community network ecosystem know that this is a very well-known community network, and it's also actively questioning the kind of economic models which is existing in the capitalist world. It's also a crowdsourced network. So, Raman, can you, in 5 minutes, talk a bit about the network?
Yes. Well, first of all, thank you for. Do you hear me properly? I think it's fine. Do you hear me? Yeah. Okay. Thank you for having me today. And yes, I'm from GoofyNet. Actually, I'm also in a rural area. Let me show you where I am. Do you see the window? So there is nothing outside. I mean, I'm not living in a village, but I'm living in a farm. But happy to be connected online with you because 20 years ago we started with fiber optics. But rather than talk about ourselves and GoofyNet, here I think we are because of Red Esperanza. We joined Red Esperanza, which is an initiative for building community networks in Timor-Leste, between Indonesia and the north of Australia. And this is a very important project for us. I mean, because of using the experience that we had, and hopefully, and Red Esperanza means also network of hope. So we are working with the hope of providing better connectivity in that part of the world. Our humble, let's say, contribution from GoofyNet is trying to provide our experience. I'm very much involved more in the technical aspect and community building. I'm afraid that we don't have Fernando, who was joining from Timor right now. Now I'm sometimes here and sometimes there, and Fernando is already working in Timor because of the electricity problems that they are experiencing in the village and so on. But we have Monica here with us. So I would like to also ask Monica to talk and take the floor and explain a bit more, because Monica is from Naroman Esperanza School, actually who told me about the initiative in Timor-Leste. I'm very happy to actually working with them. Is where we started the network and infrastructure in the interior of the island. So we are not yet working in the let's say in the capital and in the city, but in the very rural area where the coffee is being built and where this kind of project really makes sense, and in particular also helping to the academic institutions and the schools and universities. They are doing a great job there. So Monica, if you can continue and explain what we are doing there.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for this opportunity. And we are very grateful to this contribution of Ramon to our project. So this is complementary to a bigger project that is related to the education, the quality of education in East Timor, because there we are starting or developing an early childhood education teacher university. And actually it's a real whole campus with the institute and the school. And the educational model is based on a blended learning to allow personalization for a student-centered learning environment. And to make this happen, we really needed to have good connectivity and to be able to share resources. And so internet was very important, and there's no really good connectivity there. Perhaps later Ramon will explain what there was and what we have now. But what we are now enjoying, thanks to the starting of this project, is to have this connectivity and especially to be able to share content and services. because the network has started with an intranet in this institute in Naroman Esperanza. And here the students can access, students and teachers, of course, can access through this local server and the LMS, the learning platform. They can access all their materials, the projects, and for the subjects that they need to take, because it's published there. And as they are using devices, one per student, and with the offline version of Moodle, they can use it efficiently on campus, but also when they go home, they can continue using and accessing all their content. And at the same time, the campus connectivity helps teachers and students, and also the students of the school, to use internet and to use and really access important material, research, collaboration, quality of final products, independent learning, and personalized feedback. So it has been a great opportunity, or it is a great opportunity for all the learning environment in Naroman Esperanza, Light of Hope, in Gleno, in East Timor.
Thank you so much, Monica and Rama. We will now move on to Tony Liotta, who runs a community network called Blue Wave Wireless in the country of Samoa. It also has a very different topography compared to other countries, and a very special country also. So can you tell us a bit about your community network?
Thank you. Well, namaste, talafalava, and good afternoon. I'll try to keep this short due to time, and I do have a video, and I'll wait for the organizers to set it up to play, but just a quick introduction. My name is Tongsala Tony Su'aleota. I am the Chief Technical Officer and also Chief Operations Officer for Blue Wave Wireless. Blue Wave Wireless is a Samoan-owned and operated telecommunications company. Again, we use not only LTE services, but satellite-based solutions, again, to provide solutions for rural and remote areas. Given today in our panelists, we in Samoa, to give a little context of where Samoa is, we're in the middle of the South Pacific Ocean. It's between New Zealand and Hawaii, so we're kind of right there in the middle by the equator. So just to give you an idea of our country, but again, first and foremost as well, I'd like to thank Sylvia of the APNIC Foundation and also ISF Asia for, again, in believing in the project, and I can sit here proudly and say that how impactful and important the support that has been, and also in terms of the project and how it had such an impact in our country that, again, that the government ministries like the Ministry of Women and Women, Community, and Social Development, but also as well the Ministry of Education and the Honorable Prime Minister of our country has lended their support in the project. But we couldn't do that without, again, without APNIC and ISF Asia in supporting our project. But again, our goal is, again, to provide that solution for connectivity, because in Samoa, that it's still a huge issue. And second of all, it's no good about having internet if you don't know what to do with the internet. So we were happy to, again, to do a rollout in terms of raising the digital literacy or digital fluency, not only in the villages, but the schools as well. But I guess the videos or pictures is worth 1,000 words. So if we can play the video, and I'll hopefully don't go over my time. Thank you.
Patai mole ngalwenga for Pacific Coast. Te tonua ia so se ati na ia nga ia lompa na we se taua. Tono ina foi ro ave famo mo tatu painga malo tu langa tawa o nga. Le foi mai tawa tu le asele nei ia. Le la vai ta ave si la po ia le tatu Pacific Coast. Le la to si la ia lompa na o awa o ina i tonu Tato Primary School. Ia, lea o ka mani ai na ai le nganga malai Primary School. Ia, ka pe Foitanga Primary School. Ile ngata i lea. O lea o toi whaatino le ngaluenga le Pacific Coast le pama ite mai ia le tā ua o le o le toe amatai na o awa onga e whaatino e susunga whatengai ngā malato whautua. A toi tō mā natu i tausanga mawai. Sasi o whale a onga na mua i whaawai ina. Mā oa o ina i le tele o alo whanau Samoa. O to tonu wai o sau whainga whaekalesia i lalo wawaiinga le sunga whatengai ngā ia malato whautua. O le tā ua leo o le whamaite ma le ati na ele ne. Ia le o mai tau watu. Ele ngata ina whaatino ina le awa o ina o whaia o ngā ina ia le lei ma whaanga wa aina o lato mako whaupo. A le po u mai tau watu. O whaamania ina o na ua au sia. Ia vae ngata ua o loo mana o mia le Pacifico. E ma whaia i o na whaatino ina e lato le awa o ina o alon whanau. O second phase po le mai ngalo na lua o le o mai tau watu. O le po i ua whaamea lupa ia a seta. Ia e alai laptops. O le tāua la o le whamaite le nei. E le ngata ina o au ina le mawhau pa ia o ngā o loo whaasoa le to mai. Ia a le whaamatu ina atu o a po i o tātou a seta ia. E whaatino ai le nganuenga. O le tūlanga tau teknolosia le o e whaingofie nei pai taimi. O le tāua ia sao le o au ina o alon whanau. Le ala o mai tau watu. O le fiafianga ma le anganga whaatai. Le o ia po i sui o le Minister o tinam ta mai ta. Ele ngata o lea o whaamatu i tua whaamanianga i tua i nuu malala whanga. I tua ia o onga. Ai mai sei fo. I to tonu o a fo i o whawhianga inga malata o kale tua. I whaatino ia o onga. O le tāua lea. O lea o ina fo i o e o le a whaatino ina o nanga nei. So e momoli ai lea nganga whaatai i tātou Pacific Gold. Ia e tūsai po i nei wha mai te tāua. Ona o le maai lava ia i alo mwhanau. So se ati na e awa o ina i alo mwhanau. Ia o se ati na e pito sirin tāua. Mo le tāpenanga o alo mwhanau. Ia mo le lumana. Ina ia mawhai ona tūla i mai se Samoa manuia. Ia ma se Samoa saunga le mu. Ia ma Samoa e ata ma mai po i alo mwhanau. So o le tāua le o le nei po kalame.
Thank you. Thank you, Pranita. Can we have the lights on? Okay. Now I would like to move on to a few questions, related to the regulatory context in each of these countries. So, I want to first ask Goma B. Padong a question about the regulatory framework in Philippines. Philippines is also, a country which actually which is taxing ISPs. There's 12% tax collected from the ISPs, and it also has a universal service fund. So, want to understand how is the fund utilized? Are there any policy gaps while implementing or setting up connectivity infrastructure in Philippines? Is it no? I think Mr. Goma has dropped out of the call. I'd like to ask the same questions to Beatrice, because Singapore is also a country which is relatively better in Asia. So how are the traditional ISPs taxed? Is tax collected? What is the regulatory framework like? You're also charging for the internet which you're providing. So how does that work? Can you?
We are headquartered in Singapore, but we actually operate in Asia Pacific outside of Singapore, because Singapore is already so well connected. I think really for the Philippines, maybe if I can take that, the use of, is used by the government to put out tenders to connect the rural areas. I think it's a great initiative. It's very sophisticated. So we have actually tendered with DICT to connect a lot of rural sites in Philippines. Same with the Bhakti program in Indonesia as well. And I know that India also has a use of, so that is very sophisticated. I think maybe for some other rural areas that we cover in other countries, we start to see regulators starting to protect the consumer interests more, rather than putting very heavy regulatory fees on the foreign operators, which either we absorb or we have to put it back to the consumer. We can see that they are trying to modernize the rules a little bit more, reducing it, scrapping it, finding other ways to overcome that. And we also see them engaging a lot in consultations with ourselves. So they ask for feedback on what's our opinion on maybe like the upcoming different type of technology coming up. How should the regulatory level the playing field for all of us? So there are some improvements, I would say, in countries that are not so progressive yet. But of course, with the Philippines and Indonesia and India, with the use of, is actually, I would say, a good thing. Yeah, just based on the many countries that we cover today.
I think they can't. Can you hear us? Monica, can you hear us? Ramon, can you hear us? Can you hear us? No? You can, okay. Ramon, I want to come to you both also. What is the model, like the general model of last mile connectivity in Spain? And like, how is your network different? And have you been doing any sort of advocacy with the government to change some of the policies? Can you give a brief overview about that?
Yeah, this is actually a very important topic. It has been historically because we have been have to fight for 20 years with the regulatory and authorities and all the legal stuff. And actually, we'll be also in Timor-Leste. We are planning now, to start running some wireless connectivity, but we are looking for starting deployment fiber optics also next year, if possible. We have a very ambitious plan regarding to that, and regulatory aspects are very, very important. And I will say that not only for Spain, what we experienced, but also worldwide. I mean, there are several key points that have to be underlined. One of it is that community networks, because generally speaking, worldwide, telecommunications have been liberalized in some difference between countries, but at the end of the day, is very much dominated, that sector, by very large companies, multinationals, right, that typically take all the market. And this is the reality what happens worldwide. But it doesn't have to be a contradiction with having also local communities. And those local communities should be allowed to do that. I mean, should not be, we don't like monopolies. If we are thinking in the concept of liberalization, by definition, it means that has to be a room for local communities to work in a legal framework, so that has not to be a problem with that. But reality is that when you go to any country, and same happened in Spain, but also in Latin America and Asia and everywhere, when you are running telecommunications locally and as a community, it seems that you are something like something strange within the sector, and it doesn't have to be. It has to be very much normalized. So if it's liberalized, everybody has to be done. I typically use the analogy, and in Timor-Leste they understand very well. I mean, they make their own coffee, right? So internet is something that everybody has to be able to do that, like the coffee. And then if you go to a Starbucks, I mean, a big multinational corporation, for taking a coffee, that's okay, of course. But it doesn't mean that you have to be forced to go to Starbucks, but you have to also be allowed with the regulatory framework to make your own internet, just like the coffee that they are doing in Timor-Leste. They can also do their own internet and create content and so on, like actually what we are doing there with Kalohan Académico, which is the part of the Red Esperanza project that is providing content, and Monica previously was with explaining it for the community education. So it's very, very important, and it's not, and I can speak generally that community networks and local initiatives and circular economies have to be enabled, because if not, what we have is extractive economies that working at a global, larger scale, that doesn't take care about the minorities, that are just taking money from one country and giving to the others. And actually, we want to, if we are thinking on development and have a good use of the internet, it means that also have to be careful with local initiatives, despite they are small. And that's it's a problem worldwide, generally speaking, that regulatory is very much normalized, that big companies are in telco sector, but what about the communities and so on? They have to be recognized, and it's very, very important, not because they are big, but because it's an alternative. And actually, I will say, and by finishing, sorry for being that late, will normalize that the real concept of liberalization. Liberalization only happens when really there are alternatives. And if the only alternatives is very large companies and extractive economies, then we have a very big problem on sustainability, on looking to the future, and regulatory frameworks have to be very accurate and ensure that there is nothing wrong with, and there is no limit for local communities to develop their own infrastructure.
Thank you. Tony, do you have anything add to the, like, how is it in Samoa? Is there a, are traditional ISPs taxed? Is that collected tax used for the betterment, better connectivity? How are the community network generally, what is the sustainability model of community networks, if you can talk about that?
Well, thank you for the question. I think it's very important. Well, here at Blue Wave, we've taken a different approach into looking and see what model works, and we decided to go back to the communities because, again, they're the end users. They are the ones who utilize the services. So that is the approach that we took with the community connectivity and digital fluency project, along with what we did in schools to teach digital technologies utilizing STEM. And what we did was go back to the community, find out what works and what doesn't work, what are the challenges, and then come back and report that into and provide data and facts to support that in order to give to, again, to policymakers. Because we truly believe that, don't just be a talker, be a doer as well. And I think those go hand in hand in order to get those much needed information, to create those policies that will open up funding and also support. So that is just the approach that Blue Wave has taken, and I think it's worked very well, considering, again, with the support that we've gotten recently with the Ministry of Women, and then Minister of Education, and also her Honorable Madam Prime Minister, in terms of how we can create policies in order for betterment for our people. So that's just the approach that Blue Wave has taken. Thank you.
Thank you. I have one question for all of you, which is, again, I just asked Tony, but about sustainability. How are we going to, is there a plan to exit generally when we set up community network and move on to another place? If not, then how is sustainability planned in your projects? So, Beatrice, do you want to?
Yeah, sure. So I was sharing that affordability is a very key DNA of Pacific. When we set out to launch our satellite and sell our services, we put a promise that 1 gig will not be more than USD $2 or $2.50. I think the voucher system has worked very well for us. We have seen that it provides, rather than coming up with $100 for or $200 for a plan, for unlimited broadband plan, for example, you can now pay as you use. So as you need it, you pay, and it makes it very bite-sized and affordable for the communities in, say, like Philippines, the sari-sari shops and things like that. So that, to us, is one of the biggest sustainability. Another way of thinking about it would be, we have certain local ISPs or entrepreneurs who would rather take on the whole system and just pay us a nominal small fee and run the voucher system on their own and model it in terms of the pricing and flexibility on their own area. And we allow them the flexibility to do so as well, because whatever revenue they get from it and they understand the community well, they are able to give us the minimum wholesale rate that we require for the bandwidth to be working. So we find that as a very sustainable model, as a secondary way of running community Wi-Fi. So these are the ways that we are making it sustainable. Yeah.
Thank you, Beatrice. Monica, do you have anything to add to that, or?
Oh, well, let me start with that. I mean, in GIFINET, actually, well, what's very important to understand is that telecommunications actually is a business. Everybody recognizes that. So ultimately, the goal is to create a business model which is friendly and adaptable to the small communities and so on. We are actually following the principles for Elinor Ostrom. We got inspired from her. I don't know if you know her. She was the first woman to get a Nobel Prize in 2009 and was about governing the commons. So at the end of the day, I mean, sustainability can be achieved as long as there is an economic model behind. And it could be. It's a business for the big companies that has to be also ways for making it sustainable, adapted to the logics for, indigenous and communities and small. It's a different way of doing the things, but the people need that. So there are ways to get embedded in their local economies and get sustainable. And ultimately, that's the big goal. And it could happen. And looking to the Elinor principles, we found very much inspirations for that regarding to the commons. So it's very, Elinor Ostrom was describing how to manage natural resources worldwide in a way that are sustainable across, centuries and even millenniums. Was looking to the whole history. We can apply the same principles to connectivity. Why not? Technology is new. It appeared in just a few years ago, but we could apply, the same principles that were very well designed for communities from centuries. So we are not. It's nothing new. It's about adapting the technology to the common sense and getting embedded in local economies instead of just, a speculative practice or, this kind of new economics that happened in the very recent years and very much are associated to the technology sector. But it doesn't mean that have to be. Actually, the innovation maybe is to apply, the technology for what is useful, but instead of, speculative practices and, ultra-liberal economies or very much concentrated in a few companies, be much more adapted to local economies. That's the real challenge that actually I think that it makes sense to work for.
Thank you. Tony, do you want to add anything to it? Like, how can we work on sustainability of community network? How do you ensure that in your community?
Well, I think the approach that at least that works that we've seen that works is, again, going back to the communities, teaching them the advantages and opportunities that lie within technology. And I think once they get that, and then the need or the necessity to access that connectivity, that there can turn around and come back in terms of creating that sustainability. Again, you can put out a network out there or drop a tower wherever you put, but if people don't understand or know how to utilize it, and you don't have anybody utilizing that service, then they're basically it's a bad investment, or it's a bad approach. And that's why, again, what's worked for Blue Wave is going back to the community. Don't have our people fit with what we think. Go out there, create that, give them the opportunity, give them that knowledge, and then again, you can come back and then build it from there, which to us will turn around and create that sustainability. So that's just the approach that works for us so far. So.
Thank you so much, Tony, and thank you everyone. With this, we are closing the session. We're again late. But I mean, thank you all for also pointing out that, initially we used to get confused that technology or community network is something which is really different from, the general policies or the general things. But the idea is that it is a resource like any other resource, and there is an unequal distribution of these resources. And any policy of the distribution of this infrastructure should also be informed by generally how inequality is addressed. I think that is a takeaway, something which we all can an idea which we all can go home with. I now invite the presenters from the next session on stage. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Hi, you are Manit. Yeah. For the next session, we have Manet Ray joining from the Praetors Library, Philippines. We have Rabiraj Katka from Hello Hub, Nepal. Mainul Hassan Alin from Janta Wi-Fi, Bangladesh, has joined us online. And we have a video for the Beacon project. Yeah. We also have Padma Shri Daniram joining us, representing the Toto tribes. I don't know. I'll call wait. I'll while we wait for our panelists to join, I'll give a brief introduction about the people we have here. The Manoj Ray is representing the Praetors Library. The Praetors Library is a project that aims to bring internet connectivity and digital skills to the rural populations in Cambodia. The library was established in 2022 and is located in Hamos Seth village, Pre Vihar province. The library provides access to computers, the internet, and educational resources, as well as digital literacy training. We have Rabiraj from Hello Hub. Project Hello World is a charitable organization focused on providing innovative solutions to address global poverty. One of its prominent initiatives is the creation of solar-powered, internet-enabled education hubs known as Hello Hubs. These hubs, constructed with community involvement, serve marginalized communities by offering online learning opportunities. In Nepal, Hello Hubs are equipped with solar power, Wi-Fi connectivity and tablet screens. We have Mainul Hassan Alin joining from Bangladesh, from Janta Wi-Fi. Janta Wi-Fi started addressing two challenges, the low cable connectivity and the high price of mobile internet. So they started this innovative idea of selling internet with a hot cup of tea. It's called Wi-Fi Cha. The founder, Mainul Hassan, is here with us online. We have Padmashri Dhaniram ji, who will shortly join us. Yes. Hello, sir. Please. So, Dhaniram ji has been playing a key role in preserving the Toto language. He has created a script for this indigenous language in an attempt to do so. Totopara, where the Toto tribe lives, is located at the foot of the Himalayas, just to the south of the borderline between Bhutan and West Bengal. He has also been spearheading an attempt to last mile connectivity in the region. So, we would like to hear from him about that as well. So, I would first invite Praetor's Library to, so we are following the same format which we followed in the last session. In 5 minutes, we introduce the community network and whatever effort we've been doing in terms of last mile connectivity. Then we move on to a discussion on the policy gaps and the regulatory framework in each country. So I request Manet to take over.
Hello everyone. Thank you, Jenny, for the introduction. So once again, my name is Manet. I'm from Cambodia, and I'm going to talk about the Praetor's Library program. So while we're setting up the slide, I can give you a heads up of what Praetor Library program is. So basically, the name Praetors is the Cambodian names, and it means those who go to the battle. So it's like we go to fight for knowledge. We go to fight for the internet connectivity, what we want to learn, and that is why we come up with this name. So for this one, the library itself is not just a normal library that we just go and then we have the books to read, but it also equipped with the internet connectivity for the people in the community to get access to more than just the physical books that they see. They also have a chance to involve with other activities that we do there. So we provide basically the training on digital literacy, the training on other community services so that people in that area can know how to use digital devices, know how to use the internet connection. Because people in that area, unlike the people in the capital city, we basically just argue which internet is faster than which one. But the people in that area, they do not have the chance to fight over that because they do not even have the internet connectivity at the first place. So what they just argue about is just whether or not we have the internet connectivity. So for that is why we come up with this. And for now, the Praetor's Library program, the timeline is that we will start from September 2023 until August 2024. And for this library as well, we aim to provide internet connectivity to 4 provinces around the Prelong area. So Prelong is a forest in Cambodia, a lot of biodiversity, a lot of natural resources. However, the people around that area, they do not have the access to the internet connectivity. However, we understand how much they can do if they have access to that. So we basically aim to provide the internet accessibility to all those people. Now we start with Preah province with the Praetor's Library program. So the Wi-Fi is already set up We accept book donations, we accept people visiting, and we have kids, we have people from all ages visiting the library. They read the books, they also enjoy surfing the internet, seeing the outside world, how everything's going right now. And they also gone through some other sharing sessions with the people inside the community to understand more about ICT and digitalization. And then we have the other 3 provinces, Kroches, Stang Traing, and Kampong Thom. These provinces, because they are much harder than the Pravihir province in providing the access, because we do not have the telecommunications, the telecom company to provide the network, so they are even harder than Pravihir Temple. So now we are working with the people in the community to understand what way that we can do in order to provide the internet access to those people. And once we understand that, we are able to install those network connectivity for them. So now we are so the progress right now, we are studying the 3 provinces. While Pravihir, we already have almost everything set up. And the Prayothas Library program is now in operation. In case you visit Cambodia, you can also visit that library. And we also want to thank to Epinic as well for this grant. And because this one, we received the grant from Epinic through the ICF Asia, and everything is going great with that fund. So thank you. Concerning the time, I think that should be enough.
Thank you so much. You're well within time. We're not going through the PPT, right?
I think if we don't have time, that's fine.
We have 1 minute.
Okay. All right. So this overview is already finished. I think we can go to just go to the slide with the pictures, and then I can show you how is it going there. Yes, next slide, please. Next slide. Next one. Next. Next. Yeah, so we have done the launching ceremony. This is how we do it. Next slide. Yes, these are the kids that they come to visit our library. They were having a lot of fun. Look at those smiles. Now we print their photos and put and hang on the walls at the library. Yes, next slide. So we also accept book donations. Just in case anyone visit Cambodia and you want to donate the books to the library, we also accept book donations. Next slide, please. Next slide. So this is our Facebook page, the Prayothas Library. You can search the name and then just stay updated about us. Next slide, please. Yes, this is the acknowledgement for Epinic Foundation for their fund, and that should be it for our slide. Is it 1 minute?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you very much.
Thank you so much. We will now move on to Prabhiraj. Before that, I want to request stage manager to arrange a translator. So we have 5 minutes. So Prabhiraj, we have a video. So do you want to give like a short, half a minute introduction, then we can move to the video.
Thank you, Jenny, for having me here. I am Raviraj Khadka, and I am a technology lead for the Hello World Nepal. So what we do in Nepal is we build a communal place to access the internet for the community. So we call a Hello Hub. So Hello Hub is 5 things. We call it, we have the hardware systems in the Hello Hub, loaded with the educational softwares and applications for the community to use. We have the solar energy to community to use on their own, and we also have the internet connectivity. And above all the things, we provide them the capacity building trainings to set up the Hello Hub. So it's basically a partnership with the community to build their own Hello Hub, and we support them to build their own Hello Hub. I think we can have more stories from the video itself. I'd like to request the team to play the video.
Okay, so today we have 2 CSO community support officer from the Hello Hub with us. One is Mina Rajbhat and another is Sabina Waiba. Then we also have a field coordinator for the Hello Hub, Bilwar Tamang.
Prabhiraj, can you explain where is Hello World located in Nepal? A little bit of background before we go and see the place with the camera.
So Hello World is working in Nepal in 5 districts. So we are located in Sindhu Palchuk. So we have total 9 sites in the Sindhu Palchuk. And then we have 5 Hello Hubs in the Nuakot district. And then we also have one in Tanahu district and two in Kaski district, and then one in Panstar district. So total we have 18 Hello Hubs in Nepal, and most of the Hello Hub is around the Tamang community, not in all the hubs. So in some communities there are more Brahman and Kshetris as well. The altitude around all the Hello Hubs is ranging from the 1200 to 1800 meter. So yeah, most of the communities are the marginalized communities. So earlier there was no any network, and we used to multi-hop method to reach the Wi-Fi connectivity there. But now it is equipped with a fiber network as well.
So before Hello Hub network and FiberNet and others, what was their means of access to internet?
In few places there was no connectivity at all, and in few places most community members relies on the cellular network, and mostly it is a 3G network. And it is quite a bit expensive as well, and not all of the community members are used to with accessing the internet connectivity.
The area that you cover in the villages and community, how many cellular operators are operational and available?
In the context of Nepal, there is usually two cellular networks mostly present in most of the areas. But in a few of the communities where we established the Hello Hub with the partnership of the community members, there was no network at all. The connectivity is not possible. So we had to set up few relay stations to get the wireless connectivity. And also it has improved a bit of a cellular network in that area also.
And what is the general mode of access to connectivity? Is it through mobile or laptop or desktop?
In terms of the uses, Hello Hub is equipped with hardware and softwares. So we have at least 6 tablets in each Hello Hub along with 1 laptops. And in some places, it is around 8 to 10 tablets to access the internet for the community members. And also the community members themselves can their own devices and use the internet connectivity. We have solar powered Hello Hub. So it is constantly powered with the alternative energy. So we recently completed 5 years of operation for the few Hello Hubs. And for few of them, we recently completed 4 new Hello Hubs in the year 2023 itself. And 4 new Hello Hubs will be coming in 2024.
Why do you call it Hello World or Hello Hub?
So it is kind of branding for us. Project Hello World is our organization, and to bridge the digital divide in the different community, we have a concept of Hello Hub. So Hello Hub is a 5-component things for the community-based network. So it is a laptop, the tablets, it is hardware, and it is loaded with the educational softwares. So it is kind of a more of a branding for our work. It's Hello to unlimited possibilities.
Wonderful. So why don't you show us how the network is, how the community space is? Can you just show us around with your camera?
Yeah, so I'm also right now in the one of the Hello Hub. So this is the place.
Wonderful.
So the children are watching the tablets over here. And people are accessing the devices around here as well. So this here is the setup for the solar charging stations. This is a bit our old designs of getting the solar powers. So here is the electric systems, and the routers are there. So outside we have antenna over there. I think that is quite not possible to see from here.
No problem. Can you also explain in the hub, when people come, I can see that children are accessing education. What are the other activities they do usually?
So in context of Nepal, most of the activities are around the educational things, like they will access their homeworks and come and play and learn different alphabet and mnemonics, etc. Apart from that, also the connecting with their family members who are mostly in the abroad. That is another major use cases that we can see in the Hello Hub. Mm-hmm. And also different community members accessing different sets of applications, such as they are requesting for the farmer-focused application. So they want to learn few agriculture trainings through the applications as well. And in some advanced community where there is more digital literacy, they experiment with the content creation. And we have been providing them the basic literacy training.
And these kind of surveys or these kind of facility that you are providing, are you charging from the community?
No. So we have
how are you sustaining it?
So right now, for the sustaining, so we are trying to explore different options, such as selling our data to the community members who wants to enjoy the internet at their own place with some data packs. And another thing that has been handy in terms of sustainability is once the community members are more engaged into the internet activities, the local government have been interested to build more number of Hello hubs around their community, and they are also trying to support on running the hubs for more number of years.
Who is your backhaul service provider?
So we are currently with the two major ISPs. So one is the WordLink. So we have the partnership with the WordLink as an ISP for new and existing Hello hubs. And the backhaul is in one of the Hello hubs itself is the backhaul link. They have put antenna, and then they are setting the networks from that one Hello hub to another Hello hub. So the working mechanism is like that. So Hello hub itself is a relay station for the networks. And along with that, the ISPs are also sharing the same network for their clients as well. So that is a kind of a partnership model that we had with the local ISPs.
And what is the bandwidth that you are taking from the backhaul?
So it is 20 Mbps dedicated.
Wonderful. And can you also ask your colleagues to show some other locations?
So this is the Chisapani Hello Hub, which is located in Chisapani, Sindupalsuk.
Hello guys. Hello guys. This is our equipment. In this we have a battery, and these are the tablets. They are playing. They are coloring the cartoons.
So this one, this Hello Hub is located on school premises itself. So the community have given us the room to build the Hello Hub, and they have this is all decorated by the community themselves. So this Hello Hub is not only serving the community members but also capacity building for the school itself. So the digital wing of the school is added as a Hello Hub for this particular school.
Wonderful, great. I think it was great. I'm really fascinating. So yeah, great learning. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time and the opportunity to showcase our work here in Nepal.
Hello? Yeah. Thank you so much, Rabiraj, for being here and also being there. But now I would want to move to Mainul Hassan, who has actually, who started the community network from an interesting idea of, Wi-Fi cha. So we also have a video to show. So if we can just start with like a half a minute introduction, and then we can move on to the video.
Hi everyone, can you hear me clearly?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yes.
Okay. Hello everyone, thank you for having me. So at Jonatha Wi-Fi, we are trying to solve two problems: affordable internet for the masses and internet education for the masses. To achieve it, we have morphed through several models last few years, and now our primary modality is advertisement-based Wi-Fi, which is free Wi-Fi, where brands operating in those communities sponsors the free Wi-Fi hotspots. People in the community gets free internet, and the brands gets highly targeted advertisement and conversion for cheap. We are also focusing hard on creating internet education content, such as how to search Google or how to use new GPT-4 interfaces in Bing, how to find education materials on YouTube, very basic stuff, but which has a very high impact. We are also focusing on finding brand partners and ISPs who are operating in communities that has low affordability of internet. We also focus a lot on building out our software stack, reducing the cost of per node deployment cost significantly, and increasing service quality, automating as much task as possible. We thank AppNIC for supporting us with their ISIF Asia grant, which has helped us run this experiment for the past year and figure out the advertisement-based Wi-Fi modality. Now we are looking to scale up. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll move on to the video.
I'll start with myself. I'm Mainul. I'm one of the co-founders of Jonathan Wi-Fi and the project lead for the public Wi-Fi project funded by AppNIC.
This is Anamol. I am working for Link3 past 5 years. And Link3 is the largest ISP in Bangladesh. We have 140K home connectivity, retail connectivity around all over the Bangladesh, and we are the largest one in Bangladesh.
I'm Kazi Zaman. I sit on the Link3 board as an independent director too. A few years back, I met Mainul in 2018, and that's when he had this idea about creating a hotspot to make Wi-Fi available for the, make Wi-Fi affordable for the bottom of the pyramid audience. And that's where our discussion started happening. And then in the middle of the COVID, you basically said, okay, why don't we come up with this whole stack software solution? And that's what Jonathan Wi-Fi has been. At the same time, while I'm working with Link3, I've part of the Link3's journey during my Microsoft days is to work for Microsoft, for 17 years. And I was part of the Windows Office and later on the cloud team. In 1999, the founder of Link3, happened to be, we used to live in the same area when we were growing up. So he came by and said, hey, I want to develop an ISP. So when in 2021, he asked me, hey, can you come and help us out and join the board and help us guide into developing the network or extending the network? One of the biggest challenges that we saw at Link3 was broadband had a reach in the cities and the small towns. The villages were, it's still far away. It's not within the reach. And if you look at the local numbers in Bangladesh, out of 170 million people, 13 or 14 million people are on broadband. So what we're looking at is less than 10% adoption of broadband technologies in Bangladesh. On top of it, I think one of the other challenges is the cost of 1 gigabyte of data is about 70 taka or 70 cents, or roughly 80 taka maybe these days. So from that perspective, in India, 1 gigabyte of data is about 9 cents, right? So compared to India, the cost of data in Bangladesh is significantly high, and especially for the people who are on the edge. So that's where, we found that there's a good matching between the software hardware solution that Jonathan Wi-Fi has come up with, and we started a pilot which I think Mainul is going to talk about.
Mainul, can you please tell us what was your problem statement before conceiving Janata Wi-Fi?
I should talk about my background. I used to work as a financial analyst in the Bangladeshi stock market, and I used to cover the technology industry and basically telecommunication and fintech. Coming to this interface, I should say we looked into a lot of different markets. It's not like this content-based Wi-Fi, we just came up with it. There are a lot of places around the world where you see advertisement-based Wi-Fi, content-based Wi-Fi. Our sort of innovation was to place it in the community that we are in. Nobody has done it before in this sort of communities. So what we did was we basically started putting video ads on these captive portals. Previously, what they would do is they'd sign up and then they would input a voucher. But now what they do is they have the option to watch an ad. And what we do is we find a sponsor who would sponsor that ad, and that cost of running the node in that place, in that location. Also, we provide a little bit of commission per ad to the merchant who's at the shop where we have hosted the hardware. So this is a basic sign-up flow. And it is the first time sign-up flow. The problem is, if you go to a very big brand, what the brand does is they would ask you how many nodes do you have in an area. If you do not have enough coverage, they won't take you seriously, and you have to somehow grow the node count. So how do you do it? So our proposal to Link3 was you show your own ad. because the area that you have put a connection in, people are already, you can provide coverage there. So if you show your ad and you are showing your ads through a wireless product, through a Wi-Fi experience, which is the exact product that you're selling, it's a good branding for you. So what we do is we basically are placing the ISP's ad in those locations to start the whole thing. And slowly the plan is, once the coverage gets bigger, we start going to these large brands. We are already in talks with these large brands, but that's the requirement. Like, brother, we need bigger coverage, otherwise we cannot take you seriously. So that's what we are doing to, solve that problem.
Tell me one thing, I'm still need to understand. When you say 20 nodes, and if this tea stall or whatever this shop is one of the nodes, on this node, this person is a merchant, right? And yes. This is more like a Wi-Fi hotspot. This is basically a hotspot. And the person who is coming to use here, sit and use here, is a person who is carrying a voucher which can work on this node also, and it can work on any node.
Anywhere, right, anywhere. Right now they don't have to use a voucher. Right now they can just come and watch an ad and be connected.
So literally, if I walk in as an outsider, and just any walk-in person here on this can log in, right?
Yes. You just need a phone
and when you log in and you don't have to pay, but do you still have to go through authentication?
Yes.
Right?
That's a requirement.
Yes, that's a requirement,
right? Yes. So you get a OTP and whatever, and then you log in, right?
Yes. First time you get a OTP to sign in. And after that, any node you go, you won't be asked for the OTP again. You just you are automatically logged into the portal, and then you're required to watch an ad.
So that means your entire Janata Wi-Fi works more like a TV channel, right? On earlier time, when we had no control over advertisement, advertisement will come as it wanted, but rest of the time, rather than watching the TV, you are watching what you want to watch on your internet, right? You can browse or whatever, right? You can open any app or whatever, right?
Yes, right? It is exactly what you said. Have you used these open Wi-Fi hotspots around airports or railway stations
Yes, I have. Yes.
It's just that a web page would come on when you do not have a balance. Let's say you just came into the shop, you do not have any internet balance, right? So our system would detect that this user does not have internet balance and throw you the captive portal, the web page.
Oh, wonderful. That's the reason you said that you had to work a lot on technology in terms of how do you make it ad friendly and also consumer friendly and so on and so forth. And when I am logged in, what is the kind of bandwidth I get?
It's very decent bandwidth. So right now we are providing 30 Mbps bandwidth and internet bandwidth, and BDIX, which is our local internet, that's like 100 Mbps. So you basically, if you are browsing, let's say YouTube or Facebook or these cached solutions, you basically don't feel the problem with the speed. It never buffers. And if you're browsing,
this is also Wi-Fi. So the Wi-Fi router basically provides, 50 Mbps connectivity.
Right. Alan, can you now to take us around the shop where the connectivity is, the device? Can you also explain what does the merchant get out of it?
Right. So per advertisement, merchant gets about, if it's a 15-second ad, they would get about a 20 cent, 25 cent reward out of that advertisement.
Yeah.
The TV is right now turned off. These guys, they would like to have that internet anyway because they have to play YouTube. Otherwise, their business doesn't go. In the evening, they have to play YouTube.
Okay. Is it possible to ask this merchant to speak a few words, which you can ask him that for how long is he running? Is he happy? Is this increasing his business of increasing the footfall or something like that?
আপনাদের দোকানে ওয়াইফাইটা কবে দেওয়া হয়েছিল?
3 মাস আগে দেওয়া হয়েছিল।
তো এরপরে আপনার যে দোকানে লোকজন আসে এদের কাছে আপনি মানে এই যে ফ্রি ওয়াইফাই দিচ্ছেন তাদের অনুভূতি কি বা আপনার কেমন লাগছে ওয়াইফাইটা নিয়ে?
ভালোই, তাদের অনুভূতি ভালো, আমাদেরও ভালো।
আচ্ছা, আপনার কি মানে ব্যবসায়ের উন্নতি হয়েছে এটার কারণে?
হ্যাঁ, মোটামুটি সবসময় কাস্টমার থাকে, ভালোই খারাপ।
So thank you very much and appreciate
Thank you
it.
very much. Thank you. Thank you, Alan. Thank you, Saman.
Thank you, Mainul. We'll come back to the next round of discussion and we'll come back to you because we're running short on time with this presentation. I would like to move on to Dhaniram ji. हिंदी में बात कर सकते हैं ना? आप कौन से हिंदी में?
हाँ, हिंदी भी बोल सकते हैं. मैं तो लिखा पढ़ा नहीं किया, बांग्ला से करते हैं, लेकिन हिंदी में थोड़ा समझता हूँ. अच्छा, या बंगाली ट्रांसलेशन के लिए किसी को नहीं? वो हिंदी से मैं बोल देता हूँ. अच्छा, थोड़ा तो रही करके समझा देती हूँ. तो आपका लैंग्वेज के बारे में और वो जो स्क्रिप्ट आपने बनाया है उसका बैकग्राउंड क्या है उसके बारे में थोड़ा बता दीजिए, और वहाँ की इंटरनेट कैसा है उसके बारे में भी बता दीजिए. इंट्रोड्यूस कर देंगे. वो कुछ तो नहीं है, वो टोटो का कहाँ से करेंगे वो तो, और उसको थोड़ा लैंग्वेज में टान के फिलोसॉफी कैसा है. ठीक है, आप जब बोलेंगे फिर मुझे थोड़ा टाइम दे दीजिए ताकि मैं ट्रांसलेट कर सकती हूँ. हाँ. गरानी सिंजा का टोटो पड़ा सो लेमी कोमिंग धनीराम टोटो नबी इता गवातंग चेपु ट्रबल देंगे तुमसिंसो टोटबिसो तंग चेपु धन्यवाद बा नमस्ते जामुसा कने हिंदी शो ऐसे जाना. उपस्थित ये जो यहाँ पर सम्मानीय ऑनरेबल मेल ऑल ओवर, आपको मेरा टोटो जनजाति से आपके हार्दिक एवं शुभेच्छा एवं आपको धन्यवाद देता हूँ, क्योंकि मुझे यहाँ आज सेमिनार मैंने इसमें निमंत्रण किया. मैं टोटोबारा से आया. टोटोबारा बहुत दूर है, वो भूटान का बॉर्डर का नज़दीक का लास्ट इंडियन आपको विलेज है, वहीं पर टोटोबारा रहता है, अलीपुर डिस्ट्रिक्ट. और इसको पीएस जो होता है वो मादरे हाट. तो एक टोटो जनजाति ओनली फॉर कोई विलेज में रहता है, सारा भारत में कहीं पर नहीं है और हमारा डिस्ट्रिक्ट में भी नहीं है. टोटोबारा कोई कम्युनिटी में मात्र अभी जो रनिंग सेंसस रिपोर्ट उसमें 1600 के मेल फीमेल बच्चों के लिए आपको वहाँ पर है, और 310 फैमिली टोटो कम्युनिटी है. इससे उसको सेंसस रिपोर्ट और टोटो कम्युनिटी आपको अभी तक 15 जन ग्रेजुएट किया और 2 लड़के लोग आपको पोस्ट मास्टर डिग्री किया. ये है हमारे एजुकेशन का उसमें. और हाँ वो कर सकती हैं.
So translate what he said in English for everybody in the room. He belongs to the Toto tribe, and he said the community has 1,000 males to a ratio of 310 females. He also right now said that only 15 people from his community are graduates. I'll keep translating as and when he speaks.
तो टोटो कम्युनिटी का now recently लैंग्वेज के बारे में अल्फ़ाबेट कंसर्नेट बनाया. ये मुझे इस एक्सप्रेस में आया था, मैं देखा हर जाति का अपना वर्णमाला है, हर जाति का जो वर्णमाला कंसर्न है, इसलिए बहुत गर्व करते हैं. मैडम जी इसको मैडम जी वो भी ट्रांसफर कर दीजिए जी. हर
So he recently just said that there is, he found out that there are different kinds of systems, communities that use the Toto language, but also in regional languages. So he wants to talk to you more about how that ecosystem came about.
तो ये कंसर्नेट का जो और भावल जो हुआ, ये फोनेटिक साउंड से मैं पकड़ के ये पहला हमारा जो जाति का जो साउंड है, इसका कैसा वर्णमाला हो सकते हैं, ये बहुत 2017 साल से मैं इसको स्टार्ट किया. और पीछे ये 32-33 तो मैं एक कॉन्सोनेंट वॉवेल बनाया, ये मेरा फोनेटिक टूरू कम्युनिटी से मैं निकाला, उसको बर्न रब दिया.
Okay, so he basically said that he realized that his community sound is something that he wanted to preserve and work for. So in 2007, he started phonetically recording his sound and started propagating that as a system.
तो जैसे आपको हम लोग टूटू भाषा में क ऐसा करते हैं, जो के और जो बांग्ला का को बहुत अश्विनी के क भी है, तो हमारा भाषा में वो क जो बोलता है वो यस ऐसा ऐसा करता है, इसलिए नेक्स्ट से निकाला इसको, ऐसा क होता है हमारा. एक क यस कोई गाना गाया कोई फॉकटेल बताया सुन रहे तो यस यस का जो है, इसलिए ये यहाँ से ऐसा करके को निकाला उसको. और फोनेटिक डेली जो इसमें हम लोग को साउंड यूज करता है, उसके पकड़े ब पर वो बुचू ये बोलता है बाहू, इसलिए बी जैसे उसको बनाया मैंने. और आपको वो सा माने ये हाउस से वो हाउस से ऐसे थोड़ा इंग्लिश के जैसे बनाया उसको. लावा हमारे राइट यू ये नहीं जो कंसर्न राइट, इससे दो जैसा हो गया, एक आपको ऐसा करके बनाया मैंने.
So he's describing how he came up with the script of this each word. Ka, ka in their language is nodding. So the shape of the head. So he derived the script from the shape of that movement. La, which came from the movement of the shoulders, and this one more thing which I forgot, but basically it is from the movement and the body parts that is actually came up with the script of this language. Yeah.
तो ये सारे शरीर से और प्राकृतिक नेचर के ऊपर से मैं ये अक्षर बनाया आपको, और इसलिए किसी का मैं एक्सपर्टमेंट के पास में कोई हेल्प नहीं मिला, क्योंकि मेरा वो जो इंटर रिमोट जगह है वहाँ पर सीखने के लिए कुछ नहीं है, खाली हाई स्कूल एक है और 2-4 आपको टीचर भी है, लेकिन उन लोग भी ऐसा ही लैंग्वेज टीम में नहीं है, खाली पढ़ाने के लिए आए. और मैं ऐसा अपने से ये मेरे फिलोसॉफी से अभी वो किताब निकल के 350 अवार्ड भी तैयार हुआ.
So he has so far created 350 words, and he was saying that he did not receive any help from the systems in his community because he lives in a very remote community, and also because they only have one high school and 2 or 4 teachers in the entire community who are not very proactive. He had to do the entire scripting on his own.
तो आप लोग को सब लोग को मैं ये धन्यवाद देता हूँ, यही पर मैं धन्यवाद मेरा वक्तव्य यहीं शेष कर देता हूँ.
He's saying thank you for the platform, and he's really happy to meet all of us.
Thank you, Dhaniramji. Now we'll go to the next round of the discussion where, we want to sort of understand what is the regulatory framework in each of these countries. For example, Cambodia, has a guideline for community-based telecommunication infrastructure for development. And it also has a strong telecommunication law and the Ministry of Post and Telecommunications. So from Manette, I would like to understand that, when you're working, with the community network, how easy or difficult it is to set up the community network. And then you also mentioned APNIC has funded. So is there any funding from the government? Is tax collected from traditional ISPs, and whether that money is used for supporting community networks? If you can talk about that, yeah.
Thank you very much. So basically, with the new Prime Minister coming up, one of his new Pentagon strategy is focusing on digitalization. So the government is now working on improving more ICT and digitalization sector in Cambodia, because we basically, in our country, we do not have like advanced technology compared to other countries, so we are kind of lag behind. However, the government is now working on it. Private sector, especially the telecom companies and also the Ministry of Posts and Telecoms, they are working together to make sure that they can expand the coverage and provide the network connectivity to the people in other areas as well, besides just only the people in the capital city and other popular provinces. And then the civil society organizations are also working hand in hand with the others to help those people in providing digital literacy training and also help them install the Wi-Fi connectivity. In the example of the Prayuthas Library program that we just mentioned, we do not have that strong of network connectivity. So we have to survey first and see which telecom company that they can provide the best internet connectivity among all. Perhaps not like as strong as we expect, but at least there's something that we can make use of that. If we found that which telecom company have their coverage to that area, then we will contact that company and then buy their Wi-Fi routers and other equipment to install in that area so that they so that the people in the community can make use of the Wi-Fi. But the next challenge is that in the case that we do not have the coverage from the telecom company, what we can do. That's the next challenge that we are working on it right now. And we're working with the private sector, the ministry, the environmentalist community, and also the other people inside the community to study on that. And we hope to find the answer soon so that we can provide the internet connectivity for them soon.
Thank you. Is it legal to distribute internet?
Yes, it is legal because the internet companies that they come to Cambodia, they are legally registered. So we basically can buy their services and then they can install legally for us.
Oh.
Yeah.
Rabiraj, I have the same question that the community network which you are setting up, like what is that model called, and whether it's legally allowed to distribute the internet in that setup. That's one thing. Second thing is that whether there is any support from the government in terms of funding or setting up the infrastructure.
So it is legal to distribute the internet connectivity with our own model of the Hello Hub. So there is not any restriction from any parties.
Without the log, without you having an activity log, can you distribute it?
Yeah, we can do it. And our model is like partnering with the local ISPs so that they will set up the P2P networks around where we have planned to build the Hello Hub with the partnering in the community, and they will extend their internet connectivity in the nearby areas with their own investment into the network equipments. So it is like that model we have been doing with the local ISPs. And with the national ISPs, we have the World Link, who is providing from this year free internet service for 5 years into the Hello Hub. So that is what our connectivity model in Nepal. In terms of the regulation and the policies from the government, from the 2019, when we envisioned the Digital Nepal framework, the Nepal Telecommunication Authority have been doing the work with the Rural Telecommunication Development Fund. So they have been trying to reach into the rural areas like municipalities, ward offices, health centers, like that. But still, we are yet to cover more community around that area. So there is the practices from the government to bridge the digital gap, but that is not enough for now. So our model is like in some places, what we have been doing is once there is the internet setup in the schools, we are trying to lobby with the local governments and the school administration themselves to distribute the internet connectivity to the community people with our investment on the Hello Hubs. That is one model where we are trying to do. And another is also when there is no internet connectivity in the nearby schools where our Hello Hub is located, we are trying to subsidize the amount to internet access in that community schools. That is kind of a model we are practicing. So yeah, there is, we need more of a collaboration and cooperation with the local governments and the federal governments as well to bridge the digital divide in the country. And yes, we are kind of going hand in hand as local government are more interested to build the bigger version of the Hello Hub. They want to have training centers in their locality with more laptops and more powers and more digital literacy training. So the government is more interested in our training models. So we have our core programs, which comprise of the Hub Heroes program, targeted for the elder women's, elder generation and the children's. And we also have the life skill trainings targeted for the younger member of the community. And our basic digital literacy training is a flagship program for the Hello Hub. And we also do advanced training on professional learning. So that will be more like on-the-job training for the few people who are interested more into the technical things. Like with all these models and the partnership with the local governments, I think we have been drafting some kind of the policy for the government itself, that our model is working, and we want to expand it to the community learning centers that Nepal government have established around 2,000 plus in the Nepal. So yeah, it's like we are going hand in hand with the government as well, starting from the local governments.
That's great. I don't have a lot of time, so I'm moving on to Mainul. So something I also want to understand from the Bangladesh context is that, like, you are also distributing internet. So how is your licensing like? Do you pay a licensing fees to the government and then get it like? So how does that work? That's one question. Second thing is that, you're also funded by Microsoft and Epnic. What is the fund, the tax collected from the traditional ISP providers used in your country? So if you have any idea about that, these two things quickly.
Okay, so there is a very specific regulation regarding how fixed broadband ISPs can operate and cellular operators can operate. So the fixed broadband ISPs, they are mostly locals, and they have some immunity because cellulars cannot get into fixed broadband business, right? But they had this problem where it's very hard for them to reach out to a lot of people, right? So we kind of came in and solved that. We're trying to solve that problem through software and through this new kind of business model. And distributing Wi-Fi in a sachet manner, there is currently no regulation, but we are doing it, and we have had talks with the government. We are working with the government to get some regulation done, and we are getting the regulation done for the ISPs, not for us, because for us, we never want to be an ISP. We want to be an enabler. That's easier for us to because let's say if I get a license, then I'm one ISP, and I will probably have some kind of binding I'll have to follow. Right. We basically don't want to be in that legal framework. So we basically have a software provider agreement with all of these ISPs, and the ISPs are essentially regulated by the government. Right. And our business model is basically taking a commission out of the whole business model that we have created from the ISP. So that's on the regulation side, and on the funding side, it's very privatized. So even though the government, what government has done, the government has done two things. One is they have given a vision. The previous, since 2008 to 2012, 2019, we had this vision of digital Bangladesh. That was the primary vision coming out of the government. And now we have this vision of smart Bangladesh. That's a 2041 plan. And with that, government is basically encouraging all the departments that get your act together and do whatever that is needed to get it done. So this sort of initiative, it's easy to move with the all the government departments. When we go talk to the departments, it's easier because of this vision. And funding wise, government has startup funding. Not specifically, they don't fund ISPs or provide funding to the ISPs to get this done. It's very privatized. But they provide startup funding through which companies can apply and they start a business. That's how everything gets funded.
Thank you. With that, we are closing this session. It has been a long 2 hours. Thank you all for patiently attending the session. Let's hope that one thing which in the last CNX also what we stressed on about is the money that is collected by the government from traditional ISP providers, which is not utilized for last mile connectivity. So let's work together for more advocacy related to that. With that, we're closing and inviting the session moderator for the next session. Thank you so much.
Thank you to all the participants for joining us on the stage. We have a much deserved tea break now, and we will come back in 15 minutes for the last session of the day. Thank you, everyone. The tea will happen at the dining area like it did in the morning. Oh, sorry. The tea is at the back side. Saved.
Recording in progress. Recording stopped.
Can I please request everyone to take a seat so we can start with the last session of the day? Thank you everyone for coming back after tea. We're proceeding to the last session of the day. This session will talk about enabling policy for just community network and meaningful sustainable connectivity and access to the last mile. Can I please ask the speakers for this session to come on the stage one by one? Osama sir broke the line, so Osama Manzar, he'll be moderating the session. Can I ask Isha and Abhishek Raj from Center for Internet and Society to come on the stage? We're joined by Gustav, the Director of Common Room Networks Foundation Online. Can I also request Mr. Dharmendra Singh, Vice President of Hughes Communication, to come on the stage? The table is broken, guys. The top is loose actually. इसलिए मैं टेबल नहीं उठा रहा था. Never play with the table, always chairs. Are you okay? The top is not fixed. Doesn't matter. Make life easy by just having chairs. It's okay. You guys started having table also. नहीं हम तो शान से बैठेंगे. Thank you so much.
Acha, may I request everybody who is sitting behind to come in front? Just यहाँ ठंड ज़्यादा लग रही, we need some more energy towards the front side. Kindly all move towards the front side. We are going to whisper, you will not be able to listen at the back. Gustav is here.
Everybody else, we've just added Abhishek. I'll add his name.
Please. You have a pen? Can you write your name here? ताकि मैं इधर-उधर ना हो जाऊं. Gustav is there. Can we see him? Hi, Gustav. Can we check with you? Can you do hello?
Hello, Sama. How are you?
Hi. How are you? You are not in the village?
Not now.
Okay.
We just got back from Tembok village a few days ago.
Okay, I think since you are waiting, we will start from you. But just before I come to you, I would like to introduce the panel to all of you. The focus of this panel is basically to discuss what do we do to convince policies and regulations to deploy large-scale, last mile access, which we discussed in the morning also. But just to keep on extending a little bit more, stretching ourselves, we have Gustav Iskandar from Indonesia, and he works in many remote areas. He is quite famous for, erecting bamboo towers and so on and so forth, and working with indigenous communities. His case study can be looked at on CNX website. We have Isha Suri from Internet and Center for Internet and Society. She has done a lot of research on communities, how they are using internet, including some of our projects, I guess. We have John Garrity, but apparently he is not available. We have Dharmen Singh, you heard him in the morning. Since in the morning he said about 2 centers per estate, we are going to increase the number. That's why we have called him again on the stage to have his more commitments. We have Abhishek Raj. Thank you for joining. And so we are going to start by asking my first question with Gustav. Gustav, you have been deploying and working on last mile access for a long time. Tell us 2 things. One is, do you think this model is scalable and sustainable on its community, or does it always require heavy funding? Because the reason I'm asking this question is because when we are proposing for policy or large scale deployment, we need to be very sure that we are just not doing one case study after the other, but it is something which is replicable as a meaningful connectivity or as an alternative but meaningful connectivity. So that's for you, Gustav. And since Indonesia's many remote situation is not very different from the other Asian countries, your example or your suggestion would be widespread relevant. Thank you.
So 2 things. Okay. Actually, there is many things that we need to consider in terms of how we deploy community networks infrastructure in rural areas and remote places. But I think 2 main things that is important. Firstly, we need to critically reflect that in order to sustain community networks in rural areas and remote places, we need to take focus on capacity building for the local communities, because the brainware is one of the most important aspect in order to deploy software and hardware that are needed to develop the community network infrastructure. Secondly, there are no such thing as one policy fit for all, as community networks is somehow, I feel, is always contextual by nature. And in Indonesia, we have been witness how different geographical and topography, including people, culture, and tradition, can also involve and impact how the community networks can be developed and sustained properly. So I think from there, we also need to understand what kind of policy ecosystem that are navigated, how the telecommunication and internet services being developed in a local context. Because even in Indonesia, sometimes we have a problem with policy and regulations, not because the policy is not there, but because people doesn't have any knowledge about this existing policy. So they afraid that what they do is will not comply with the existing policy and regulations. And yeah, I think that can be our opening for the discussion. Actually, I want to learn more from your end how the community network practice and development has been developed so far, because I think we need as much as a study case that are relevant for the study, because I do believe there are a diversity of approaches and practice of community networks that are needed to be recognized.
Okay, so one of the things that what India has done in the last few years, in fact, what we did is at a policy level, as a scheme level, government adopted a scheme based on last mile connectivity, which is called PM Vani. And that is pretty much almost like liberalization of licensing of internet. So you don't need license to have an internet or distribute an internet or to buy an internet. You can buy and distribute, and the model is also demonstrated here outside, just outside this door, because the only thing that was required is an authenticating, last mile authenticating officer or the person, or a device which can authenticate you that you are the right user or whatever user, but at least I know who is the user. And this PM Vani case study has been done by G20 through our model that we have adopted, and many places. Now, in terms of scale, I felt that, you know, this is certainly in the right direction, one effort where it allows to create more entrepreneur, more people to adopt internet, more people to create last mile hotspots, and so on and so forth. And with authentication, and you can charge also, because it clearly says that once you authenticate, you pay 10 rupees for a half an hour or 1 hour, and then you pay and you start working. And so, Isha, you have done some research and you have studied some of these things. I'm asking you this question is that, do you really think that community network has to be hard and fast model in itself, the way it is, that you do one point to multi-point, and it is strictly managed by community, strictly, you know, done with the involvement of the community and not as a service provider per se? Or do you think that PM Vani is a great model of liberalizing not only internet licensing, but liberalizing also community networks the way it is known, you know, in terms of providing last mile connectivity?
Sure. Thank you for the question. And in this, I would also like to spotlight some of the research that we've done, right, where this question of PM Vani specifically came. What we found during our research is that community networks per se does not have to be as rigid as you were talking about, but it is definitely an alternative and complementary approach to connectivity. It doesn't really have to be an either or. With PM Vani specifically, what we also experienced, and when we talked to a couple of stakeholders, one was that it is only successful where backhaul is already available. And the other thing that was there, that it requires an OTP authentication. So I do remember that one of the interviews that we did, and Abhishek can probably shed more light on it, but in one of the interviews, for instance, and you also mentioned early in the morning that there are a lot of villages that still live in telecom dark area, right? Like 35 to 49,000 villages that you sort of mentioned. Now, one stakeholder told us that the nearest point in the place that I currently live from this village to get an OTP is 20 kilometers away. So these are those barriers and friction. Having said that, PM Vani, not taking away anything away from the program or the scheme, it does reduce prices also significantly, but it's not going to be the anathema that we're looking for, or the silver bullet that one hopes that it will be when it comes to solving the connectivity conundrum that exists in India. Where infrastructure continues to be a challenge in a lot of those villages. You still don't have these telecom operators or TSPs, because they do not have significant return of investments, will not invest there. And that is where I still feel that CNs will be an important sort of model that one will need to rely on. Having said that, there are also challenges to that, and the challenges I feel is that after 2016, for example, the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India has not mentioned community networks, quote unquote, in any of their policy documents. That was the only sort of policy document that comes to my mind in India, which mentions how community networks are actually enabling last mile connectivity. Subsequent to that, we've had the National Telecom Policy, the National Digital Communication Policy in 2018, which has talked about bridging digital divide, but has not looked at CNs as an alternative model. And that to me is slightly concerning. In fact, as recently as August 2023, when they're talking about another sort of a licensing model, where they're talking about digital connectivity infrastructure providers, which are going to be a separate sort of licensing category under the UL regime, with very light touch sort of a regulatory mechanism. Even there, in that entire consultation paper, community networks does not find a mention. Even though, they've said that rural connectivity and all of those are objectives. And to me, that is slightly alarming and concerning, because it is a model in India that has shown to give a lot of success and has been a successful model of connectivity, especially when we talk about hitherto unconnected areas. And I do feel that it is important that the policy makers are aware of it and also acknowledge its success, because that is when you will have specific sort of policies in place for these sort of operators, which they need to really scale up. Because we were talking about in the previous session about the levies that are imposed. If backhaul is not there, the only other option is to have an ISP category C license. Now, the minute you have an ISP category C license, you're also required to pay a percentage of your revenues as a licensing fee and USOF. And that becomes a huge component for these small scale operators. And they actually may be best served and may have the incentive to provide connectivity in those, the local operators, right? They have the incentive which the national operators do not have. And that is why I feel that you're correct. It doesn't have to be rigid. It doesn't have to be only a type of model. But I do feel it is an alternative and complementary model that needs to be recognized.
Actually, TRAI, are you finished?
Yeah.
Actually, TRAI, when they had launched a consultation paper much before PM Vani, but historically, if you see the PM Vani, when it became a policy, there was a historical link to a paper. They had mentioned DEF's example of community networks. Yeah.
That's the 2016 paper that I was talking about, the consultation paper.
Yeah.
After that, none of the subsequent documents sort of look at it as a model. And I think that's sort of alarming, because
so
after
that I'm not alarmed at all, because the reason is that when I had met Chris Sharma, who actually wrote that consultation paper, personally wrote, he mentioned, because he was very impressed with community networks, the last mile Wi-Fi that we were doing. But I know that bureaucrats, when usually they write these kind of recommendation letter, they don't want to recognize anybody, and gradually they must have removed the names and all that, except the deployment example of Wi-Fi hotspot. So they actually consider Wi-Fi hotspot as a motive, not really the methodology as a motive. You know, how do you do it and things like that. And that is how they done it. Just, but having said that, what is very interesting is that if you look at the entire history of internet, we are naturally relying that telecom only will solve this problem, which also means only the commercial company will solve this problem. Whereas, considering that internet is no more a technology and connectivity is no more just a telecom service, but it is a media service, it's a content service, it is everything like a road service or something. We haven't been growing like the way we have liberalized ourselves, that media is a fourth estate. Even though you are not subject to the paper you use and all that. Paper is an industry, but media is not. Similarly, technology may be industry, but technology usage media cannot be a technology industry. Right? So similarly, what I'm actually trying to say is that we have developed community radio licensing, right? We have created many other ways of making means reach to the people. We created PM Pradhan Mantri Sadak Yojana, also liberalizing last mile physical access from the NHAI, National Highway Association of whatever, India. Similarly, why we are not growing beyond telecom as a model to give a last mile access to us as a final frontier, and why it is not getting liberalized by them? I mean, I'm asking this question to you because you are in the middle of that business also, and the last mile access provider also, is that why we are not liberalizing ourselves from the clutches of the telecom service providers to take different kind of model, you know, to provide last mile access?
Difficult question. See, till the time, I'm not a expert on policy matters. I understand it limited to the satellite technology, which is relevant for our business. But see, till the time you don't define connectivity as a essential service as a nation, right? Road is an essential service, right? Till the time you don't define that, then only limited project-based and area-based funding will flow in, right? And ultimately, to whether you are building roads, whether you are laying down the fibers, whether you are connecting satellite networks, if, for an example, if you're, we all understand that the hilly terrain of India, which is northeast, Leh, Ladakh, Jammu and Kashmir are unconnected, right? Till the time you don't come up with the solutions which are specific for those areas, and you keep bringing something which is very, very generic, this is not going to enable that, right? So first, that's the most important part. Having said that, whatever I have seen in last 6 months, maybe an year, the regulatory framework from the connectivity perspective, specifically for the satellite service, is becoming more and more open, right? You have seen that earlier, a satellite operator, it was mandated that satellite operator must come through ISRO and SIL, right? Now they said, okay, you can be an international company, you can be an Indian company, as long as you have an Indian entity and you can bill in INR, you can sell your services directly. And that is first, and I think very important thing which has enabled, right? Now, earlier it was ISRO launching satellites which were having limited capacity, and no large satellite operator was designing the capacity specifically for India, considering it was a closed market when you talked about the satellite communication, right? But now, with this openness, the capacity which has come by default over India, do you think Starlink has designed capacity for India? No, India was not in their mind. Do you think OneWeb has designed
capacity or India was in their mind? No, it wasn't. Do you think Amazon Kuiper? No. But because they were building a global constellation, so by default, India got covered. So we are very lucky, very fortunate. Then even if the framework didn't allow, we have terabits of capacity coming over India. And now with this small change that they can, like recently you've heard like OneWeb getting its license like day before yesterday, right? Now they can offer service. Of course, Hughes is the local partner. We have exclusivity over OneWeb. But OneWeb or any other, for that matter, Starlink may acquire a license tomorrow, and they can start selling the service directly. And they will have terabits of capacity over India, right? So what happens? Till now, satellite capacity only businesses could afford. I'm not going into the prices. For an example, today, or say in next 6 months, capacity pricing will be 1/5 of what it was 6 months back. 1/5. Now suddenly what happens? It will open, a new prospect base will come in, right? Community network would be able to work directly without probably any funding or without probably any subsidies and get this capacity. However, it's not just the space segment. It's the technology, the hardware itself is probably an inhibitor today, when it comes to the equipment which needs to go to these communities. So the policy needs to be made where the capex for the communities is provided. However, OPEX needs to be self-sustainable, right? Which I think can be done by creating employment. I think we can have a very long discussion around that. But that's what I said in the morning. You need to involve communities. Till the time communities won't own the last mile infrastructure, somebody may pay for it. You will find actually the corporates saying that, okay, for long-term recurring revenue benefit perspective, I'll fund the equipment. But they cannot place people to make sure that equipment is safe, secure, and it's running maybe for 5 years, which could be a projected time frame to recover the capex cost, right? So there are many challenges around it.
So yeah, I mean, when you said that community have to get involved ultimately, grassroots level, PM Vani is one thing that clearly says that anybody and everybody can take. But I still don't know that suddenly it says that now the policy, telecom policy is liberalized, that NGOs can apply to become ISPs. You know what I mean? Or the cooperatives are allowed. I'm sure if they apply, they won't be rejected, because as long as you're paying the license fees or whatever they would be. But what I'm actually trying to see is that why we are unable to recognize this as an essential service. And I agree with your point, okay, as long as we are not treating it as an essential service, and the only state who have learned how to is Kerala. So Kerala has created a separate company within the state, which is called Kerala Optic Fiber Network, KOFN, right? Who is Satish Babu is its CEO, and they have decided to go household in all those unconnected areas. They have a target. So they are saying that what BharatNet could have done or should have done, since they couldn't do, because maybe at a national level or federal level of working, we are actually trying to do it at a state level or a province level. Abhishek, do you have any kind of suggestion that how does it work in terms of creating micro business out of it, creating nano business out of it, which is expected out of PM Vani, but I'm not seeing that speed.
So first of all, thanks for having me here. So before moving on to this question, I'll just jump in for the points that was raised on connectivity as an essential service. So that is one important thing to do to improve the connectivity. So if we go at the village level in India, so we have this Gram Panchayat development plan, which is formulated every 5 years. But in that plan, you see healthcare and everything, but you don't see connectivity. So if you kind of include connectivity in that Gram Panchayat development plan, it could provide some necessary capex to set up a community network. For PM Vani, yeah, it is a good step in right direction, but again, it is not picking up. So for finding out the reason, like being a researcher, I would have to do a research study for it, but primarily it is because of absence of backhaul in some cases, and also because telecom operators have like
not giving the backhaul to the
yeah, precisely. So
just wanted to quickly, and this could be my skepticism as a researcher stepping in, when you said that, why are we still relying on these telecom service providers, or why do you still think of DOT or TRI? Why hasn't it really trickled down even within our consciences that it's a liberalized sort of a world we're looking at? I think because telecom is not perceived, it's still not a liberalized sector. I still feel that in India, the bureaucracy still sits on it as a command and a control regime. And if you look at the most recent version of the telecommunications bill, which by all signs it could be tabled during the winter session, still looks at it. In fact, what they've done is they've expanded their sort of tenets, right? Where they've said that even over-the-top services will now also need to be licensed under the DOT. So what you're essentially seeing is not liberalization, but the opposite of it, from where we were in, say, the 1994. And I think that's why, at the end of the day, we all ultimately grapple with, but where is the policy or lack thereof? And our imaginations are also curbed with how much elbow room we have by virtue of the regulations in the space. And there are very restrictive regulations, be it a spectrum management sort of policies. We still don't want to look at administrative allocation of spectrum. The most recent version, again, of the bill, they do talk about probably spectrum sharing. It can be the preamble or the concept note will talk about for welfare purposes, but the act will stop short and say, but it should still be by virtue of an auction. So I think when the government or the regulator has such a tight control, we will always look at it as something that we're at the mercy of by the government and never be able to imagine it as a liberalized sort of a space. And I think that is inherently a problem, that it is still a command and a control regime. When you need license to provide services, I think therein lies the dichotomy.
Gustav, what kind of learning do we have from Indonesia? Because I don't think Indonesia also has a deep penetration of internet, because you have how many thousands of islands? Perhaps you have more islands than number of people in many places, I think. Can you tell me, is there any, enlightening policies that your country is adopting or looking at or trying to find out?
Well, by far we have around 17,000 islands in Indonesia, and by 2020, based on the report made by government, there are around 12,000 remote villages that still doesn't have any proper internet connectivity, and some of it doesn't have any proper electric support. So in terms of basic infrastructure and connectivity, we still have quite serious challenges. Even though that the internet penetration in Indonesia is, I think, in the past few years is extremely increased. Based on the report made by the National Association of Internet Service Provider, we have already around 73% of whole population in Indonesia have internet access. But of course, it's not include people in remote areas and rural places. And historically speaking, I think the internet development in Indonesia is basically rely on community networks, because at that time, I still remember around mid-90s when internet started to appear, all the connectivity in different towns and city is made by a community that are based on campus and university. And that is how internet penetration started to develop in Indonesia. But of course, when corporations and big companies started to take over the whole businesses, and they, together with government, there are several policy and regulations that are limiting the participations and engagements of people. This, I think, become a new obstacle. Even though that we can understand that the internet and telecommunication service is a highly regulated sector in Indonesia, because there are quite a lot of people who have an interest and rely on this infrastructure. At least we have 5 pillars of policy and ecosystem in Indonesia that regulate and navigate how the telecommunication infrastructure is built, how the technical standardization is being happening, including the application standard, the content policy, as well as business policy and regulation. That quite a lot for community networks development in rural areas and remote places, especially for people who don't know anything about policy, regulations, and technical stuff and so on. It can be very challenging and confusing. Of course, we need more open and flexible approach on this, and we try to advocate some of the approaches. Like, for example, I think in 2004, if I'm not mistaken, there is an interesting movement in Indonesia that liberate the use of 2.4 gigahertz frequency, which allow us to use wireless devices and doesn't need to pay for any licenses for that. And it, I think, stimulate a lot of community networks projects in Indonesia, including RT-RW-Net is like the collective approach on connectivity in rural areas and remote places. I think we adopted RT-RW-Net models. It was developed by Ono Purbo and other internet activists, I think around 10 to 20 years ago, and then it grew into many different approaches. But I think such open and flexibility is needed in order to increase engagement and participation of people. And I do believe that handing over power and knowledge to the people can benefit better and to have more decentralized approach on connectivity, because people can find their own models with their own that are suitable with their context and respective region, because with the diversity of geographical context, culture, and economic background, I think corporate approach on connectivity it will create a gap and disparities, because I do believe the centralized power is always have a limited outreach, in particular if we deal with people in remote areas and rural places.
Thanks, Gustav. There is one more, thought that came into my mind, and especially for you, Dharmen, is that India has got this railtel, right? Rail goes to each and every nook and corner of the country, and we can still go with the railway line and see that this is carrying an optic fiber to this station, but people around this station are not well connected, right? Then we have BharatNet itself claims that it has got optic fiber reach to the panchayat. That means 250,000 panchayat it has taken the pipe to, and out of that it claims that 156 or 60,000 is service ready. Their service ready phrase is also a question of its meaning into Wikipedia or anywhere, that what does it mean service ready? It is always ready but non-functional, so kind of thing one can say. But what I'm saying is that infrastructural wise, we are there, and in the middle of all this, Geo is also one idea where they said that connectivity doesn't matter, data matters. I'm not even interested in monetizing my connectivity. I will monetize on the data. It is something like, I don't want to take toll tax on the road because the peripheral business will bring enough money and I will provide the road service free, or something like that. And that may be the future when we talk about access will be available to you because I am the data, and I am the product. So that's why pipe will come. But my question is that these infrastructure are close to my house, close to the institutions, close to the places. Why we are unable to convert that into last mile access? Because there is certainly some issue there. I don't know what it is. Is it because, like you also said, that we would like to go to the places where there is no connectivity, and that's where your service is, right? You don't want to compete with the market where already available. In fact, that yahan Airtel hai, I don't want to go there. But they are not providing service, or they are not being utilized to be providing service, or somebody doesn't know how to maintain and manage. Google had started one service with Railtel, but now even that one is not working. Whatever. So what is it that this last mile connectivity in an area perhaps which is not haves, but they are more have-nots, is not reaching?
See, there are 2 points here, right? One, we talked in the morning about meaningful connectivity, right? Another is no connectivity, right? So when you say we have Railtel, rail network goes through not really any ultra-rural, areas. It goes through suburban or maybe rural areas, right? And the fiber is laid, right? But then somebody need to erect a mast, use that fiber as a backhaul, and do the last mile distribution, right? And to the extent it is commercially viable, everybody has used that. Where it is not being used is where it is not commercially viable. That's one. Because erecting that mast and putting up radio access network can cost you $150,000. I'm giving you a ballpark figure where you'll put up a 35-meter mast and you'll put up radio which can cover like 10 kilometers, right? But how you recover that? That's one part, right? Second is area which is well covered, but service is not meaningful. I can tell you, I come from a rural background. In my village, in my house, I get 1 bar, and my uncle's house, you get 5 bars. How do you ensure that every house gets right QoS? That again, the telcos kept acquiring subscribers, but haven't invested in the radio network in the same proportion, right? It's like, let's juice it out. And if I speak openly, then it started happening when all these guys were asked to pay certain penalties, right? So now then, anyways, let me not go there. Isha can talk more in details. We also suffered, but we are a small company, not to that extent, right? So one, provisioning enough resources in areas which already has backhaul. That's one question. That is, again, commercial viability. Second, you have backhaul, whether it is fiber or maybe satellite somewhere, but not enough infrastructure is built to do the last mile connectivity, to distribute that backhaul to the end users, right? Third is an area where actually there is no backhaul. And there are areas, I think I was reading one of the report which you shared with me, which was December 2022, that 30% of villages in Northeast are unconnected, were unconnected. Say, imagine 20% are done, maybe still about 24,000 villages are unconnected, which have no kind of connectivity. So let's focus on that, right? So our focus as a company is to bring in enough capacity, bring in next generation technologies to ensure that there is no gap in supply. Supply is there. Now demand is also there, but we need to lay down that infrastructure to reach those users. And which is, how do you do last mile? I'll say there are three scenarios you want to do. There is a village where 10 to 25 people live. In some hilltop, there are 5 houses. Do you think somebody will lay down a 50-kilometer fiber to reach them? Never. There is a small village where 100 people live, right? Will that happen? Maybe 3 years down the line. But can we wait 3 years and still let those people unconnected? And then areas where there are people, number of people, say in a valley, but very, distributed, maybe 10,000 people in probably 10 square kilometer area or more. What do you do there? So these are 3, different scenarios and which will be served using different technologies. Backhaul can be made easily available using satellite technology, right? Last mile for small, communities, 10, 15, 20 people can be done easily. But now, today, government has given 4G, 5G license to 3 big players and 1 BSNL, right? Now, if I want to go and connect a society where, there are 50 houses in 10 square kilometer area, how do I do that? I cannot do that by putting up Wi-Fi access point, right? That will be too costly. I cannot even create a Wi-Mesh network. The best way to do it, probably do a captive LTE or captive 5G, right? But I don't have a license. A village will not have a license. I'll have to go to Big 3 or BSNL to let me use that license, right? And put up the infrastructure. That happens. After that, that is not accessible till the time everybody has smartphones. So making sure smartphones are subsidized in those areas, right? Making sure communities are granted free access to 5G license for captive LTE network, community Wi-Fi networks, right? So I think these are some of the, I had a discussion with DOT, I had a discussion with BSNL. Thankfully, they are very forthcoming that as far as you are rolling out a site under BharatNet project, whether it is 1, 2, or 3, we are happy to extend that 4G license, right? For a captive 4G network, right? Or you can say community 4G network. There are different, nowadays, BSNL and DOT is talking about captive networks. Since one of the big guy has got the license under in the name of captive 5G license, right? So I think these are areas which needs to be plugged, and they're all doable. And again, I'll say it cannot happen till the time you enable, empower local communities to take care of the infrastructure. These are very far areas. No corporate or government will be able to manage and ensure that once the infrastructure is put, it is working. Purely because I live in that community. My house is in dark. You put a solar panel to run a VSAT. In the night, I'll steal that and run a bulb at my house because I don't care about the connectivity. What I care is that bulb, if I can light up that bulb in my house. So it's a difficult situation, but I think solutions are there. It's that few people need to come together, put up a solution, and all stakeholders need to own something. And community also. Again, I'm saying Sylvia in the morning said, nobody else will help till you don't want to help yourself. And that's where I'll rest my case, Isha.
So looks like the next CNX we will have to have 1,000 communities coming. हमारी मांगे पूरी करो, हमारे घर में इंटरनेट लाओ, नहीं तो हम खाना नहीं खाएंगे, भूख हड़ताल पे जाएंगे, that kind of thing. Because the reason is that there are 400 million people work in NREGA, right? I mean, apply for, not all of them work, but they apply, potentially they apply. Now all of them are being asked to mark attendance through online, an app. And you yourself in the data shows that connectivity doesn't work in that area where they are digging the hole, you know, or doing the labor work. And affordability is another issue, you know. So, I mean, we are actually really don't know what kind of policy are we making, what kind of infrastructure exists. And so I'll ask Isha, and then after that we will wind up with last comments from each one of us. That you know, do you really think that we are poised to come in a situation where we will have to create a mass movement or something like that?
I think that the problem is that there is lack of political will, you know, and I'm going to stick my neck out and say it. And the reason that is there is because we all love these ideas of India being the second largest market, internet base in the world. We've not really gone and sat down and thought, what does that really mean when we say that you have 850 million subscribers? What sort of connectivity are we talking about? And when we say meaningful connectivity is important, because a survey, for instance, showed post-COVID, a survey carried out by Learn Asia in collaboration with Dikri, that only 20% of school-going children in India had access to education during those times, right? But we talk as if we are all digital, and therefore everything else has to be digitized. You talk about registration on the eShram portal. We talk about digital public infrastructures, but no one really questions who are these public infrastructures being built for, and are they really public, quote unquote? Because if they are, then access to that infrastructure should be my point of conversation. My biggest problem probably is that there is dissonance. There is dissonance because we've all bought into this story about India being this digital behemoth, and our conversations begin from there. And to be fair, I think the blame lies both with the regulator, but also with the providers, because they haven't invested in the infrastructure. We had the incumbents before 2016, but post 2016, they were engaged in this bottomless price war, and they have themselves to blame when they say we do not have enough money or resources. Having said that, none of these private entities are going to invest in rural infrastructure. I don't think they're going to do that. They'll keep talking about how it's doubly expensive. The return on investment doesn't make a solid case for us, and it is definitely, the onus is on the government, because access to internet is a basic human right. You rely on it for the basic services, your education, health, the registration, eShram portal, I mean, all of these things. So I think the problem is that I personally feel that there is lack of political will, and that lack of political will is also because there isn't enough conversation happening about all of these things. There isn't enough discourse about all of these things. We all buy into the story about how we are the second largest internet base, how everything is good, we are the lowest data market in the world. But nobody says that only 3% of that subscriber base is actually wired broadband subscriber. So I do feel that unless and until we just talk more about these issues and there is pressure from the bottom up, I don't see anything moving, because definitely the conversations are about how we are on this digital journey. We've solved the problems that existed with the infrastructure, say, a decade ago. It's all hunky-dory. And therefore, we are on this next step of adoption and usage constraints. And no one is talking about those that are invisible in these conversations. And I think it is time that those invisible stakeholders are mainstream, because only then will we even meet any of our development goals. It's not going to happen otherwise.
So Abhishek, what kind of suggestion you have for what kind of policy we need as a researcher and from, the data collector, I would say, from the ground?
So any policy for connectivity, especially in the rural areas, has to understand the peculiarities of the rural market. Like on the demand side, we have limited skills, we have limited ownership of devices, and then on the supply side, we have lack of interest of operators due to a lower ROI. So any policy has to take these into account, because even if you subsidize the capex, like it happened for many areas in the northeastern region through various policies, say CTDP, which is Comprehensive Telecom Development Plan, but again, that towers are ultimately shut down because of not considering this fact. So we will have to be careful about the sustainability of the connectivity that we do. Again, one thing that you mentioned in the beginning, whether we should create a model for community network. So based on my research and based on what I feel is, every community network is unique in itself. So we don't have to create a model for that, but let that be specific to the geography, to the socioeconomic conditions that is there. So yeah, this is my thoughts.
Gustav, do you think that from ITU's perspective, from the global various best practices perspective, the onus is on community to take the ownership of having their own network, or do you think that we still need some policy change, and what could be those policy suggestions quickly in a couple of minutes?
Well, I would like to amplify what Isha mentioned about the political interest. I think the absence of political interest in order to provide equal and connectivity in rural areas and remote places, I think this is our big problem. Not only in Indonesia, not only in India, but probably also in many other places in the world. And the business model is also a problem. I think everything is centralized and controlled by the market demand and corporation and so on. And I think one of the interesting case that we have been studying in Indonesia is that when you transfer the knowledge and increase the capacity of people in rural areas to build their own infrastructure, and the connectivity is there, there are more advantage and important development. There are new job creations, new businesses happen, new opportunity for people in rural areas started to create, and so on and so on. So this kind of story and things that happens in the ground, I think we need to amplify and share as much as possible this story to others, in order to inspire and to create a movement on community networks, in particular to rural areas and remote places. And in Indonesia, currently our government is also focused to improve the quality of services as well as the internet outreach. And I think that will be impossible without any community engagement. Either corporations, private sector, or business units that provide internet connectivity will fail if they only think about the business as usual approach. We need people-centered approach on this, and we have some witness and experience on how we done this in Indonesia. There are also interesting stories in other countries in Asia Pacific that I think we need to collect as much as experience and story on how community network can improve and address digital divide challenges in many different parts of the world.
So wonderful. Unless anybody want to contribute, I would like to wind up. Dharmendra, do you want to say a few words?
I think same thing I said in the morning, that any of you working in any of the states looking to put together a model which can work for your community, right? Please reach out to us, and we'll be happy to contribute whatever is in our control. That's what I can say. You know, my colleague Jairam is here. Some of you have interacted with him, and my contact details, if you don't have, you can take from Osama. And of course, anything we'll do together along with DEF, right? So happy to help.
Okay, so we will finish there, but before that, I just want to make a consolidated statement that I feel that we don't really need a extraordinary policy to do a last mile connectivity, but we certainly need a policy of making last mile connectivity or the connectivity or access as human rights and basic requirement as a fundamental or infrastructural requirement. Till the time that is provided, we cannot make any other policy digital exclusive. That is what I feel that we must push on, because we cannot make a policy that you can do this work only through connectivity and you don't have a connectivity, right? And that is the reason why most of the people have started suffering. The poor people are suffering, you know. When you say that you have to upload this, you have to download this, you have to give this, you have to make a payment like this is the only way, there is no other way, you know, and then it become exclusionary. Is my I mean, I would say a suggestion to the policy makers and to all of us is that I don't think we need an extraordinary policy for providing last mile access. It is in the hands of many other companies and associations and organizations and governments and community, of course, the more you demand, and the paying capacity, of course, and the managing capacity. But certainly it's a matter of human rights complaint that if you say that this is the only way, my way is highway, is the only way, is not something that one can think of. Because we still haven't reached. You cannot have a 42% people connected and you make connectivity is necessity. You know, I mean, because more than half the population, even Indonesia, I just checked, only 62% internet penetration is here, only 62%. I mean, 48% is a lot of 38% is a lot of population, you know, and all those people are, and human right philosophy is that even one person is deprived is a violation, you know. So that's the only thing that I would like to end this note, is that we need to work on the exclusionary policy rather than we need any inclusionary policy. Thank you very much for quietly listening. As Dharmen said, we all are available here for any interaction. And I heard that there are many communities, there is FAT which is available here, who wanted to have her community to be connected. So, you know, if you think that I made a false promise, you can talk to Dharmendra. Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of community people here. Please reach out to us. We certainly want to make an effort to provide as much as people to have the meaningful connectivity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you to all the panelists for joining us for the last session of today. And thank you to the audience. You guys have been really amazing and have been patiently listening to us from the morning. I know community networks is a technical term and it's a technical kind of knowledge production, but we're very glad to have you here and be a part of CNX 2023. We'll be continuing the sessions tomorrow from 9:30 as well. Please join us again tomorrow for having another round of case study production, as well as understanding and gain knowledge from the speakers that we have listed for tomorrow too. Can I please ask Osama sir to do the vote of thanks, or do you want me to do it? Okay, so so thank you to all the participants and thank you to all the panelists. We've had a very lovely time, and thank you for joining us today. We'll see you all tomorrow. Thank you.